All right, so here, got a lot to do today, although a lot of the time it's just going to be for you to do whatever you need to do. So here's the deal. Check the homework. To, at some point, get that out so we can check your answers, and then study. So it occurred to me that the term ends on Wednesday, so we have today and tomorrow and the next term starts on Wednesday. So we have today, tomorrow, Monday, and Tuesday. But you don't really have any more time in the classroom after tomorrow. So if I'm going to give you a test, it needs to be tomorrow. So I've been thinking about this, and I don't like just throwing a test at you tomorrow. But there are a few things I'm going to do to make that maybe not so bad. One is tell you that the stuff on this test you've already been tested over and you've studied it a lot, so I don't think it'll take a lot of review to be able to do okay. Second, I'm going to give you two grading options. So they're down here. Grading option 1, if your test grade is better than your current average in this class, I will count it as much as all of your quiz grades so far, if it's better. If it's, well, I'll tell you. If it's worse, then I'll just count it as much as a quiz. So here, let me show you sort of graphically, sort of mathematically how that would look. I'm going to make this screen a little bit, actually, let me just make this big. So, except I need to freeze this, or no, mute it. There we go, so I can draw up here. So right now, your grade is 80% quizzes and 20% other stuff. So if, I don't know, I'm not going to do a pie chart. I guess I can do a pie chart. So 80% and 20. So if I divide this into 5 pieces, it's kind of hard to cut a pie into 5 slices, but what did I do? Oh, so that's not exactly 5 even pieces. Need to make a sand dollar, essentially. That look kind of like 5? All right. So this is 20% of your grade, and about 20%. That's all the. This is all the practice stuff, and the rest of this stuff, this is all quizzes. And unfortunately, you've got 5 quizzes right now, so it's kind of like this. Of this, it's broken up into 1, 2, 4. Oh, I did it wrong. Let me make this look right. So this would be quiz 1, quiz 2, quiz 3, quiz 4, quiz 5. Now quiz 6, you've actually had a 6th quiz, but I was just telling Elijah when he came in, because he was the only person here at the time, not many people really took this quiz. Some people were gone. Some people just were going to take it in study hall and didn't take it. And so I didn't put that quiz in unless you took it and it helped your grade. And it ended up, there was only one person in here. Somebody in this room had such a good grade on the last quiz that it counts for them, but it's just not a part of anybody else's grade. So there are 5 quizzes. Now, if you do really well on this test, then your grade is going to be like this. Still going to be 20% practice. But this is going to be your 5 quizzes. And this is going to be your term test. So if your grade on this is better than on those, that's gonna bring your grade up overall. More of your grades are gonna come from that term test. If, on the other hand, you don't do well on the term test, if it's worse than your overall grade, then, I don't know if people can see this, practice is still gonna be 20% like that. But instead of this being 5 parts, this will be broken up into 6. So this would be quiz 1, quiz 2, with 3, with 4, with 5, and then test. So, if it's bad, it's not going to impact you as much. If it's good, it could help you out quite a bit. But it's going to count either way. It's got to count. So, any questions about that? Megan? Only one person. So the rest of you won't even see it. It's like it's not even in your grade book. That was the one over large stars and the HR diagrams and the Big Bang. And it wasn't that some of you did badly. It might have just hurt your grade a tiny bit. And I thought you'd probably be happy just to keep your grade better. So that's what I did on that. So then the last thing I want to say about this is, since I'm kind of popping this on you tomorrow, because that's the last day we actually have this term to get this done. If you do badly and you really, really want to retake it, we could do that next term. We just may have to go back and do a grade change, which I can do. And we'd have to set that up, and that would be a bit of a hassle. Oh. So we've got a test tomorrow. I'm going to show you what it's like today. Study, do the best you can, and it's either going to help you a lot or not hurt you much. And if you really, really, really want to retake it later, you can do that. So I think that gives everybody an option. Okay? All right. So I want to go over so let me just read what I've got here, because sometimes I put things on here that are important, I leave them out. Check the homework. We'll do that first. Study. So the rest of the time today is for you to study. I'll be with you in a second. Some of you are just below passing. There are just a few of you who are almost passing. So it's super critical that you study like never before, because this is an opportunity to get your grade up to passing. If you fail the first term, but you pass the second term, then you could still pass for the class. But it'd be good to pass the first term. There's not many of you. It's just a very small number. Gold students, so we'll have this tomorrow. You should just study tonight, and that's pretty much it. Megan, you had another question. What? It's okay. As long as you marked it done, I trust you. I've been just going on the honor system this whole year. If you said you did it, then you get credit for it. All right, so I want to go over the answers, and instead of asking, oh, come on. Okay. Instead of asking people for, like, what do you think? I'm just going to go through this kind of quickly. So all you had to do was number 16. And number 16, I gave you a hint on. This is says as soon as our sun's red giant stage is over, the sun's going to change again. So what it's going to do is turn into a white dwarf. Hey, Soli and Tommy, will you turn your cameras on? And when it does that, you're supposed to talk about how the mass, volume, density, temperature, and color change, and then explain why. So some of this, you can see down here I've got 2 answers. I would take either one of these answers from all of you. Put this up here because I may need to gesture. And if I gesture and you can't see me, it's kind of a waste of a gesture. Come on, there I am. All right. So when the sun turns from a red giant to a white dwarf, it's doing this. I just want to talk about why it's doing it. You need to understand all these situations on the last sheet of this. So a red giant runs out of nuclear fuel, fusion stops, and when that happens, it starts to cool off. And when things cool, generally the particles slow down and they start to shrink. So this big red giant is going to cool off, and that's going to make it shrink. Remember the balloon that I had in hot water and cold water? So I heat it up and it expands, cool it off, and it shrinks. But it's tricky because when it shrinks, then its gravity actually starts to compress it again. And when you compress something, then it gets hot. So there's a lot going on here. First though, mass. There's no stuff being added to it or removed from it. That's a very clear answer here. It's the same amount of stuff in this red giant that we have in the white dwarf. The same stuff. So mass stays the same. Volume definitely gets smaller. And now for the explanation, it says explain why or how you know. So if you just said it gets smaller, that would be fine. That's how I know volume is decreasing. I've also got a why here. I'm answering why. It's because cooling slows down the particles and that allows gravity to compress them. But if all you said is that it gets smaller, you get points. Density, well, without really knowing anything else other than mass is the same and volume decreases, then you know that it's got to get more crowded. If you have the same stuff in a smaller space, it's going to be more crowded. And then temperature, this is where I would have taken either answer. If you had said the temperature is going to increase, that's a good answer, because when it turns white, the reason it's turning white is because it's getting hotter. White is a hotter color than red. But in the beginning, the thing that makes it shrink in the first place, that's the cooling. That's it running out of fuel and getting colder. So I'd take either one of those. So first, the temperature decreases because fusion stops and it cools. Second, the temperature goes back up because it gets compressed. And then finally, the color, plus or minus or equal, doesn't really do it there. It turns white. And why? You could just say it because it heats up. White is a hotter color. So now, I want to give you this term 1 review part 2. And the rest of the time today and tonight, or whatever time you have for this, is going to be study time for you. But I want to prepare you for how to study. So people at home, Tommy, and I don't know where Soli went, and if you see Tyler, I always forget. I always want to call him Tyler too. If you see Tyler, tell him that, and Soli, tell him they need to get this review thing. So this is actually what the test is going to look like. I tried to think of the most important things, the biggest concepts from this whole unit that I would want you to remember. And I got rid of a lot of things I kind of wanted to keep, but felt like would just be a little too much for one big last bite. And this is what we're left with. And I'll say more in just a second. So the test tomorrow is going to be almost exactly like this. And I want to explain how it might be different and what you should do from here on out. So first, let me say I've got all the answers right here. And for people in the classroom, if you want me to go make a physical copy so you can look at this yourself and then kind of quiz yourself and then check my answers and see if you're right, I'll make a copy for you. For anybody at home, Tommy, it looks like it's just you there. I'll show you where this is. It's on my web page where it says Term 1 Review Part 2, PDF version. That's an easy to open version. And then here are the answers. That's what I just showed you. And also there are a couple of assignments in Classroom. There's the meet, and then there's this one that says study. So in this study assignment, there are four links here. One is for the part 1 of the review, a blank version, and one's the answers to part 1. And then one is part 2, a blank version, and then the answers to that. So let me go back to telling you what to do. So this first part, I'll just sort of quickly show you the answers. I'm not going to go through it step by step because I know we've been over these before. But you can see these are all, the sun you don't have to label. We've got the inner planets, asteroid belt, outer planets, the Kuiper belt, the Oort cloud, and then on top you label the individual things that are in there. So Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, and the comets. You may not want to write on this paper. You may want to wait until you get a copy of this, and then you can keep this clean so you can look at it and say, do I know what this planet is? And then you can check yourself. But if you want to write on it too, because that helps you learn, I can make you another copy. So this section down here, you just had a quiz over this. This is the second crack at this. You just have to label all the stuff that we've talked about on it, like the red giants, where the sun is. Ooh, I just realized I didn't label this, and I scanned it. So Tommy, if you get this from my website, it's not going to say blue star right there. I left it out. But everybody else who gets a hard copy, that'll be on there. So you have to label all that stuff. I don't think that's too hard if you've been in this class. Then there's this big matching section. This is a lot of the stuff from the first unit, but it's also from a few other things that I threw in, like at the end. You can see mass, volume, density, and weight. I added in neutron star, which wasn't on the first quiz. But the nice thing about this is everything here has exactly one definition there. So you can just cross them out as you go. I think the easiest way to do this kind of thing is to read this part first, like any object that orbits something else. Most of these orbit planets or stars. And then you go looking for the word. That's a satellite. So write A next to satellite, cross that off, and move on. I think it's easier to read these and then find the word than it is to read the word and then find the definition. That's the way I would go. Oh, and one thing that I changed a little bit, light year, the distance light travels in a year. That's not written over here anywhere. But there's this. I put it in miles. This would be million, billion, 5.88 trillion miles, basically. So what I'm testing here is that you know that light year is a distance. It's a really long distance. So this is the only distance over here. All right, so that's that. Then there's this page with some kind of short answer questions. I'm going to have a picture like this, and I might rotate it around. I might flip it backward. But what I'm going to want you to do is write the colors of the rainbow, labeling these. And it says on here, or at least write the first letter of each color. So if you can remember Roy G. Biv, why did I put an E on the end of Biv? It's not Roy G. Biv. Roy G. Biv. If you can remember that, and you can remember red's the longest, you can just find the longest wave and you can just write Roy G. Biv. But beware, I might have red on the top. Or these might be turned sideways and red will be on the left, or whatever. You've got to know how wavelengths and light relate. Then there's this one about the Doppler effect. I don't think I'm going to read through this right now, because you can in a little while. You can look at my answers. And then there's a quick section where you have to use the terms volume, mass, weight, and density, like we've done before. And then finally, this is the part that I'm afraid people will forget about. On the actual test, the last question is either going to be 13, 14, 15, or 16 for part 1. And what that means is, this is part 1. I'm either going to choose this is 13, where we have a nebula that's starting to contract, and you have to tell what's happening to all these things and why. Or I might choose number 14, where you have...
Please excuse the interruption. Today is picture retake day. For students with the last names beginning with A through D who are interested in picture retake, please go to the gym at this time and enter using the side entrance of the gym by the athletic department office. Thank you.
So, just switching to this right now. 13 asks about a nebula beginning to shrink. What happens to, you should be able to look at this and say to yourself, why does a nebula start to shrink and what happens to it when it does? That's basically what the question's asking. Number 14, when you have a planet growing from tiny bits of dust into a full-size planet. So all those pieces of dust come together and the ice comes together. What happens to its mass, its volume, density, weight, temperature, that kind of thing. Here's our sun when it turns into a red giant. What's going to happen and why? And then finally, when our sun turns from a red giant to its next stage, which is a white dwarf. I'm not going to tell you that. You need to know that. What's going to happen to it then? So I'm going to pick one of these and put it on the test. Everything else is going to look, this is going to look just like this, except these are going to be all shuffled around. And I may draw new pictures. And this star, do you think it's going to be moving to the left? It might be. It might not be. So don't count on it going to the left. Make sure you understand the concept. That I'm going to swirl around somehow. These are definitely going to be scrambled. So this isn't the order these words will be in. This is not the order these choices will be in, but they'll be the same choices and the same words. Everything here I think is going to look exactly the same. I don't see any reason to change anything on this page. It's exactly like that. So most of this, hopefully you understand now, and it's kind of already there in your mind. You just have to brush up. Worst case, it's a bit of memorization. I know that's hard for some people. All right. So the rest of, I'll raise your hand if you want me to make you a copy of this sheet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Factoring in the fact that some of you are kind of shy, I'm just going to make a copy for everybody. Tommy, you're free to go. Do you have any questions, Tommy? So your test, Tommy, is either going to be Monday or Tuesday, and you can tell me which one you prefer. I don't really care. You get to decide since you're the. Oh, you can talk to Tyler and decide. You're the only ones who showed up. I'll be right back. So the rest of you, as soon as you get this, start studying. If you don't know how to study, I'll help you. I can go around and quiz you if you want. I think I forgot to stop recording. It's going to be the most boring video ever.